I've had my ups and my downs.
Phelps with 10 meters left. 3 minutes too good. The crowd roaring. Freeman wins gold.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show, the show that takes you behind the scenes of how the world's top and most inspiring physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs and the lows on the journey in getting there. I hope you've had a great week and you've been enjoying some great training and the previous guests of the show. We've had some recent fun with our previous guests featuring English Channel trailblazer and world record holder Trent Grimsey in the previous episode 52, which was actually our 1 year anniversary here at the Physical Performance Show. So we threw a party here at the Physical Performance Show headquarters, and I really appreciate all the support that's come through over the last week for the program. People listing some moments that they've enjoyed and messaging me on all different fronts, social media, etc. So listeners, without you, the show wouldn't have happened. So a massive thank you. And as I said last week, we really do have the best to come. We've got some great things in store this year, including featured interviews with experts in their field, such as Peter Maliaris, a tendon rehabilitation expert, and coaches, alongside obviously the world's best physical performers. So it's been a big week. Also, we've passed the 1 year countdown to the upcoming Commonwealth Games, which will be held here on the Gold Coast in 2018. And as I record this morning, I'm actually recording this on the morning of the World Triathlon Series event here on the Gold Coast, which features two of our previous guests on the program, Richard Murray and also Ryan Fisher. So as I record this, by the time this goes live, the results will be past tense, but I want to wish those guys all the best today. And if you missed their episodes, both Ryan and Richard gave great insights into the world of elite level triathlon and what it takes to perform at their best, sharing some great tips along the way. Today's program is lovingly brought to you, as always, by POGO Physio. We're the physios that exist to help you perform at your physical best. And we do this through our industry first, fixed fee, unlimited access, 2, 6 and 12 week finish line programs. Why do we do it? Well, it's simple. We want unlimited access so there's no financial restrictions to people getting the treatment that they truly need, as opposed to what typically happens, which is getting the treatment that people can afford on a traditional physiotherapy session-to-session model. The finish line programs include unlimited hands-on treatment with our leading physiotherapists and also active rehabilitation, including clinical Pilates, anti-gravity, Alter-G treadmill running, whole body vibration therapy, and a home exercise program on our unique app. So if you want more information on the finish line programs and our approach to physiotherapy, jump over pogophysio.com.au and check it out. Thank you to the listeners who have been leaving reviews for the Physical Performance Show. Reviews help this show by getting it more visible on iTunes, and therefore the benefit is into more earbuds. So we had a great first year last year, and I'm really thankful for I think in the end of the year we had 73 reviews. So that's awesome. So I really want to say thanks, and big thanks to a reviewer of the show who this week gave the program 5 stars. Run Richie Run. And Run Richie Run, his comments were, loved every episode to date. The John Shaw episode was amazing. Such an inspiration. I run further and faster now due to being super inspired from hearing John's story. Keep up the great work, Brad, and keep coming with stories like John's. Richie, thanks so much for taking the time to leave your review, and I'm super happy that you were inspired by John Shaw's sharing. For any of the listeners that missed John Shaw, then just jump back over to episode 46, in which we shared around John Shaw's amazing marathon world record at 63 years of age. That is the age world record, running an incredible 2:45 on the Gold Coast here at the 2016 Gold Coast Airport Marathon. So if you missed that, jump over, check it out. He went from being overweight by many kilograms at 59 years of age to a world record holder in the marathon just 4 years later, and John's best run is still to come. So truly inspiring. Run, Richie, run. Thanks for your review. And listeners, if you'd like to leave a review, please jump over iTunes and click ratings and review. You need to do it from your desktop computer, not your tablet or device, and rate away. 1 star if you think this program's okay, 5 stars if you think it's great, and any comments are great feedback for me as well. So thank you very much, guys, in advance. Listeners, today on the Physical Performance Show, we feature a marathon runner. She's a pocket rocket, and it's Charlotte Purdue. Charlotte hails from the UK, and she's been a group member of the Melbourne Track Club training group with Nick Bedot as her coach since 2014. Charlotte has her eyes firmly set on the marathon for the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games in 2018 and has a very impressive backstory of her running career. Charlotte is an up-and-comer. Her PBs are very strong. 5,000 metres, 15:23, half marathon, 1:12:06, running Okayama in November 2014. The marathon, unless it's been bettered, without my knowledge, 2:30:04, running Frankfurt in October 2016. And in 2016, in Charlotte's debut marathon, this is impressive, Charlotte finished a very credible 16th place in the London Marathon and 3rd amongst the British marathoners with a debut marathon time of 2:32:48. So for any marathoners out there or any runners, we'll all appreciate just how fast that is and what a great way to debut into the ranks of the marathon in elite. So Charlotte shares some great insights into her training growing up through the UK running scene, and she also shares a really funny story with one of the show's previous guests, Eloise Wellings, that happened at Falls Creek, which I'm sure everyone will enjoy. So let's get ready, let's get set, let's go with Charlotte Purdue. Charlotte Purdue, I must say, it's absolute pleasure to catch up with you. There seems to be a whole lot of love out there in the running world for you. You must be aware of that.
No, not really. I love running, obviously, and I think just because I've been around, I feel like I've been around for ages, but I think it's because I started quite young when I was about 11, so I've been around for a while, so I think I've just developed a bit of a name and people know who I am. But yeah, I feel really grateful to be so popular.
Well, when I threw up on Instagram that I was catching up with you in this 24-hour window, there was quite a few comments coming through about how much they love you, respect you, and it was really great to see. So nice to know you got a cheer squad out there, Charlotte.
Yeah,
however, that's
great.
been manufactured. So tell me, what's one thing that scares Charlotte Purdue?
Getting injured. I've had a lot of injuries in the past, so touch wood, been injury free now for about a year and a half. I think getting injured scares me the most, again, because I've had 6 stress fractures, and if I thought when I got the 6th one, I thought if I get another one, it's just game over, really. I can't carry on rehabbing, not being able to run. I'd have to get a proper job, and it was just a nightmare. But I managed to get over the injuries and in a good place now. So I think going back into that injury cycle would be terrible. Obviously, I'm bound to get more niggles in my future, but to go back into that horrible stress fracture cycle would be, yeah, that would scare me.
So let's just go there now. So Charlotte, when was your last stress injury? How long ago are we talking?
So 2017 now. 2015 was my last one.
So 2015. And was that of what, your shin or different bone?
No, that was hip.
Hip, like femoral neck or something, was it?
Where was it? It was. It was from the femoral neck all the way down to my pubic bone, so it was quite a big one. Wow,
and the other 5, they were all over that sort of, because 5...
Other 5, I had 2 in my sacrum, 1 on either side, and then I got 1 on each side of my knee, so 1 on either knee, and then 1 in my foot.
So, and here you are, 2017. You've had. Is this the longest patch of training you've been able to enjoy without a stress injury for a while?
Yeah, I'd say so. Definitely. I think it's been like about a year and a half now.
Yeah, great. So, well done on that. And, I don't think at the elite level it's, there's stories of, years of trials that athletes go through for injuries. But you mentioned, the fear of it. What is it exactly about, you said if it happened again, you were off to get in your words, real job. I think you got a real job, Charlotte. I think you got a very real job. But what is it that particularly scares you, about the prospect of another one? Is it the timeout or the mental toll or the doubts that it would produce? What exactly?
I think it's just the time out, really, because once you have a significant amount of time out, it takes you almost twice as long to get back, and then you can't just jump straight back into it. You have to build up slowly, and then it takes you like a little while till you get up to full volume, especially doing the marathon stuff. I've actually had a year and a half now of probably last year actually my average was 96 miles a week, so that's been like a whole year of building for the marathon. So this year hopefully I'll have a good block, so if I had an injury now it would take me back a massive step, because I wouldn't just be able to get healthy and then start running 160 k's a week. I'd have to start building up really slow, and then that would just take a long time. I'd be almost back to square one, I think. Yes. And it would just be really annoying.
It's just the time and the frustration. I mean, I saw one post you had up on social on Instagram. You just had a 200-kilometre week, and you were posing I feel like not the king, but maybe the queen of the world. So, I mean, that's remarkable to have 5-6 stress injuries, and obviously you've done so well rehabilitation-wise and load management-wise to be able to, hit that quantity of training, even if it was once off. That's so that must give you some confidence.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I've not just jumped straight into doing 200 k's a week. I've actually had 2015 was my last big injury, and since then I've been really careful to build up slow. I mean, Nick's been really helpful setting me like a good plan, and it's taken us probably up until now to actually get back into some good form. I mean, I ran 2 marathons last year. Each one I got better, but still I wouldn't say I was that fit until probably the end of last year. And now I feel like I'm getting back to my best, where I got all my personal bests when I was younger. I was running really fast times, and it's taken me up until now to get back to that kind of fitness. So it's been a long process, but I think I'm finally getting there.
Well, I mean, it's. I know one of we mentioned just casually chatting before we went live that you listened to Ryan Gregson's, one of your Melbourne Track Club colleagues there. His interview, and Ryan really, I think, beautifully articulated that it's every session that builds upon the next. It's not just a week upon a week. It's session by session, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's a journey back. I mean, let's talk about the marathons, Charlotte. You mentioned 2 marathons, 2016, London first of all. Your debut marathon, running with great British team, and finishing 16th. I think it was 2:30:34 or 2:32.
2:32:48.
So I knew there was a 4 there somewhere. So
that's all right.
So 2:32, 16th overall in the women's, and your debut marathon. What would be one word you'd use to describe your debut marathon, the experience?
The whole experience was exciting, but it was really frustrating. I finished 3rd for the British girls, and it was a trial for our Olympics, and so top 3 were to go to Rio, but you had to run the British athletics qualifying time, which was 2:31, and I unfortunately ran 2:32:48, and despite being the 3rd fastest in Great Britain, they decided not to take me, which I was really annoyed about, because I mean, it was under the IAAF qualifying time. There was no one else, so they just ended up taking 2 girls, and it was just really annoying.
So what was the IAAF qualifying time?
2:42.
So you're well and truly under that, and
exactly.
Is this the legacy of Paula Radcliffe, setting the Great British Olympic qualifying time so low, or what?
Well, the British qualifying standards are always a bit harder than the IAAF. They do it because they set the time that you would be competitive at. So they say if you run like 2:31, you would come in the top 8 in the world or in the Olympics. So the time is set at the top 8.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
a kind of theory, but I mean, it doesn't always work like that because obviously championship races are competitive and it's not always about times. And so I feel like the third spot was left open. It was just a bit of a waste. Yeah.
Yeah, and so at this stage in years, how old were you last year, Charlotte, just to give listeners perspective?
So I was 24 when I ran that marathon. I'm 25 now.
So, young in years, Charlotte, and but, how does someone with such young years process such great disappointment? I mean, what was your reaction? Was it one of obviously frustration, but did that channel, a bit of, well, all right, I'll show the selectors next time, or was it more a bit of discouragement where it's like, what's the point?
Well, I mean, before the race, I spoke to Nick and we decided that obviously it was my first marathon. So he said to me, you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know if you're going to be good at it until you do one. So I was always aware that I actually had to see what it was going to be like. And so when I crossed the line, I was initially excited because I knew I'd run well and I'd run a decent time for my first one. So that was initially, first of all, I was excited. Then I saw the time and I knew that I didn't get under that 2:31. So then I was a bit disappointed because I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get selected. And then when they selected the team 2 days later and I was left out, I was really frustrated because I thought, oh, they could have taken me. I was third fastest. So we appealed the decision and then they basically turned around and said, no, you didn't run the time. That's the reason why we're not taking you. So then I just went back to the drawing board, really, and I had a plan that was going to be that I'd run Berlin Marathon in September. So I kind of just treated that as if that was my Olympics. I just trained all summer for the Berlin Marathon. I actually went out to Mount Laguna, which is where the Australian Melbourne Track Club team went to train for Rio. So I went with the whole group there, which was great because they were gearing up for the Olympics. And so I kind of felt part of it, even though I wasn't going to Rio. I was going home and then I was going to run Berlin, which was my chance to run fast. So even though I wasn't going to the Olympics, I kind of just refocused and made another goal. So, yeah.
And there's so much there I want to unpack. So, Charlotte, you jumped in with the Melbourne Track Club, did some training in Mount Laguna, then flew to Berlin. And how did Berlin play out for you?
So Berlin was going to go great, actually, because training was amazing and I was really, really fit. And then about 3 a.m. in the morning of the race, I just woke up and my stomach was like growling at me. And I was like, oh, what's going on? And I was sharing with Cassie Fien and also training with her before the race for 6 weeks. So we'd been doing a lot of training together. And I said to her, like, something's wrong. And she was like, no, you're just nervous. And I was like, no, something's wrong. And she was like, let's just go down to breakfast. So we went down to breakfast and I couldn't eat anything. And then I had to rush back up to the room and I had to be sick. And I was like, oh no. So I think I got some kind of food poisoning. But I decided to start the race anyway. So I started the race and I got to halfway and I just felt drained and terrible. And then, I ended up having to have the week off. I was just really, really, really sick. And it turns out it was some kind of food poisoning that I must have got because it came on so quick. So it was quite a bad experience.
Oh.
Yeah, I've never had anything like that before.
In all your racing years?
In all my racing years, I've never had food poisoning. So this was a first. And before a marathon as well, it's really not ideal because obviously you've got to kind of focus on your nutrition the days before and everything had gone so good. And then the last few hours, it turned horrific. But I managed to get into Frankfurt Marathon, which was a month later.
Yep.
I woke up the morning after Berlin and I looked at my phone and I had an email from Nick and it said, it was just something like, you're in Frankfurt Marathon, time to get over this illness and get training again. And I just remember reading it and thinking, oh my God, like there's no way I can run another marathon because I'd already been marathon training for 10 weeks and doing like 200 Ks a week, and so this marathon had come like right at the right time. I was peaking for this one, and so reading that I was like, nah, there's no way I can do another one. But then I don't know, just had the week off, completely refreshed, got over the illness, and I was like, what's the point in wasting all this training? So I carried on training for another 3 weeks, and then flew out to Frankfurt, which is also in Germany. So I went back to Germany and ran Frankfurt Marathon and ran 2:30. So that was a good result, I think, after the kind of disappointments.
Well, Charlotte, that puts you at 2:30.04, I think it was, and that's a couple of minutes under the Olympic qualifier, more or less. So you really proved the point to yourself and also selectors that you're capable of running that time, which must have been a bit of vindication of sorts, right? Yeah,
it was because also it put me at the top of the British rankings for the year. So I finished 2016 at the top of the rankings. In front of the other two girls that went to Rio. And it was only my second marathon, so I was like, just kind of, it was pretty good feeling to be at the top at the end of the year.
So Charlotte, you finished 2016, with a high. And listeners, I've just got my beautiful little girl, 7 months, who things never quite go to plan when sometimes we're recording an interview. So if you hear a few baby noises, listeners, that's not at Charlotte's end, that's at my end. So Charlotte, from the end of 2016, you've set your sights obviously to get back. You're at the moment in Melbourne enjoying some warm weather. How's training going for you now?
So training's going really good. I actually came to Melbourne at the end of January. Yeah, end of January, just trying to remember. And I'm here, for another 4 weeks. So training's going great. I come over here every year just so I can be with the group and also get away from the cold weather in England, and it's just really good to train with Melbourne Track Club and have all the training partners and the physios and just have Nick watching all my sessions, and it just sets me up right for the year so I can go back to London and just crack down on focus on what I need to do. It's a good start to every year, so I've done it for the last 3 years, and it's worked pretty well.
Well, evidently. How did a British runner end up with the Melbourne Track Club, Charlotte? How did you connect with Nick? What's the story to that?
So I was originally coached by a British coach, and he was my first coach. He was the guy that got me into running, actually, Mick, when I was 11, and I was coached by him up until 2014. And I left him just basically because things weren't really working out with the group I was with, and I just was in that injury cycle and I needed to change something. So I decided to move coaches. And at the time I was looking at British coaches and I just kind of didn't really want to go with any other British coach. Just there wasn't any groups around where I lived and I just didn't feel like I wanted to go with any of them. So I knew Nick came to Teddington, which is where I live, every year with his group, and I saw them training. And I actually first met Eloise at the Commonwealth Games in 2010, where we both raced the 10 and the 5K. So I raced Eloise there, I got to know her a bit, and so I knew that she came to Teddington every year. And so I just basically emailed Nick and asked if I could join in with the group. And he said, yeah, we'll just chat when I'm over in London and see how things go. And things have gone pretty well so far.
So, I mean, you connected with Eloise, a previous guest on the show, and
Yep.
I imagine conversation at some point would have turned to the common challenges you've shared, Charlotte, with numerous stress injuries. Was that a common bond that you girls shared?
Well, at first, obviously, Eloise was my competitor, so we never really.
Yeah.
We were still obviously focusing on trying to beat each other, but once I got in the group, she has been so lovely. Like, I stayed at her house last year and she helped me get back from all my injuries so much, just the mental side of things as well as like the physical side of things. She's just taught me heaps about listening to my body, and I'd say she's been a major factor in like how I've got to where I am today, really, especially in the summer training with her in Mount Laguna. She was really, really helpful. in everything. She's just always willing to help out whenever she can. And I actually ran with her on Sunday, and it's just so good every time I meet up with her to, just get chatting, and just seems like no time has ever passed, even though I haven't seen her for like 6 months. It seems like I saw her yesterday. So yeah, it's good to have like such good friendships in the group. Just helps with everything.
Kindred spirits. And I have to ask, on Instagram, Damon Bray posted, excellent, Charlotte's lovely. Ask Charlotte if she can fit into Elsie Wellings' baby seat. Hashtag Falls Creek 2016. What's all that about?
So at Falls Creek in 2016, Eloise would pick me up for training because I was staying at a different spot to her, and we would get in the car and drive to where we did the sessions. And one time Damon was in the car and he was in the front seat, and that's where I usually sat. So I kind of walked out and I was like, oh, there's no room in the front. Eloise was like, yeah, you have to get in the back. And so I get in the back, and there was just a child seat in the back. Because that's obviously where Indy, Eloise's little girl, she usually sits. Eloise was like, you're just going to have to hop in there. We haven't got time to move stuff around. And I was like, fine. So I got in, and like to everyone's surprise, I fitted in the child seat perfectly. Like I could even do up the little belt and everything, so they found it hilarious. I went all the way to training in this little child seat, like crammed in with the seatbelt on. And
hopefully no stress injury after being jammed in that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But Charlotte, you are known as a pocket rocket, aren't you? You're a little dynamo.
Exactly. Everyone says, like, when they see me, oh, I didn't realise you were that small. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm this small. I get comments about it all the time, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like when I run next to Eloise, I feel really small because she's obviously so tall. But yeah, that's just the way I am, I guess.
We just don't get to choose, do we? And there's a beautiful post, a picture you had up on your Instagram account with Eloise running next to each other, and I think you'd commented something along those lines. So listeners, we'll pop that in the show notes, that photo, and that'll be just give you perspective. So Charlotte, let's go back to your genesis story, your origin story. How did you end up putting a pair of running shoes on? Because I believe there was ballet involved in your early days, right?
Yeah, there was. So when I was younger, I loved doing ballet. I got actually to grade 5. I don't know if you have that in Australia, but in England, grade 5's, yeah, pretty good. So I got to grade 5. And then I gave up ballet and just focused on like schoolwork and stuff like that. And when I was about 11, I went to secondary school, and my friend and my PE teacher encouraged me to try the cross country, and I didn't really want to do it, but I tried the cross country. And at the race, I actually got approached by my first coach, Mick, and he came up to me at the end of the race, and I only came 16th out of like the state, which wasn't that good at the time. And he just said, yeah, you should try running. And I was like, maybe. And anyway, I ended up trying, and I went twice a week to the club. And I just quite enjoyed it, so just went from there, really. Just started doing 1 session, and then 2 sessions, and then 3 sessions, and then I started competing, and then I saw that the more you trained, the better you got in the competitions, and then basically I got addicted to running.
So the addiction got you, and
exactly.
I mean, they're worlds apart, like ballet and running, right? One's all about grace. Not that running isn't about grace. No one looking at elite runners would deny that. But one's just full out physical exertion, the other's controlled form. So what a juxtaposition.
I know. I think like the funniest thing was one time I was at a physio, and I think it was when I had my stress fracture in my foot. It was in my heel, and the physio was like trying to click my foot, and he was like, oh, you've got really stiff feet. I would have guessed that you were a ballerina before. And I was like, haha, yeah, I was. And he was like, no way. And every time someone tries to click my feet, they're like, oh, your ankles are so stiff. And I was like, yeah, must have been from when I was doing ballet. But yeah, I definitely don't do any ballet now.
Well, I mean, maybe for a bit of stability, cool, So the ballet got left behind, the running shoes got picked up, and then really, from what I can gather, you went on a real trajectory of junior success. I mean, culminating in some great results, including, cross-country title in Portugal. So take us through and listeners through, Charlotte, from that first, biting of the running bug through to some of these junior successes. What was life like then? What did training look like, and what would you rate as the highlights through those years?
Training was pretty intense. So when I was about 15, I was doing 3 sessions a week, a long run, and I even started double running when I was 15, twice a week. So I was doing quite a lot at a young age. Obviously, I did build up to it from when I was 11, so it wasn't like I jumped straight in, but still looking back, it was probably quite a lot for a young athlete to be doing, as well as doing like 8 hours of school every day. I was trying to fit in an S&C session. So I think my success was down to the fact that I did train really hard. I'd say the best achievements, I was 3rd at the European cross country, and then the year later I came 2nd. The year after that I missed a year because I was injured, and then the year after that I came back and I won the junior European cross country. So that was a great thing to get all the set of medals. I got the bronze, silver and the gold. And then 2010 I went to the Commonwealth Games for the 5 and the 10K, and I finished 4th in the 10K, and I was 19 at the time. So that was pretty good. I also ran a British junior record for the 10K, 32:36. And then after that, I actually went to the World Cross as a senior, and I finished 14th in the World Cross. So that was probably one of my best achievements, finishing 14th. I think I was the second non-African finisher behind Shalane Flanagan. So that's probably to date one of my best achievements, I would say.
That World Cross Country Championships.
Yeah, definitely. I was in really, really great form then. I was training really hard, but racing every weekend, and just got better every week. And the World Cross was at the end of a long season, and I managed to come 14th. So that was, great performance, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Com Games, 4th in the 10,000 metres at 18. Was it 18?
19.
19. I mean, was that a pinch yourself type of moment from the girl that was, a few years prior doing ballet?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about the ballet. That was a great moment. I mean, at that time, I thought that definitely the Olympics in 2012 would be possible, and then Olympics in 2016. But then I had to miss the Olympics in 2012 due to injuries, and 2016, obviously, the marathon didn't go just as planned. So I still haven't made it to the Olympics yet, which is definitely one of my main aims. Obviously everyone wants to be an Olympian, and that's still on the bucket list. Haven't ticked that off yet.
Well, hopefully Tokyo 2020.
Exactly, yeah. That's the good thing. I mean, I've got age on my side. People always think that I'm much older than I am, just because obviously I started doing Commonwealth Games when I was 19. They think that I'm like 30s now, but I'm still just 25. So hopefully, I've got a few more Olympic cycles.
Plenty of years. I mean, look at Elsie's story, right? It's so inspirational,
exactly.
Isn't it? Story of persistence, and highlights in Rio this year. So so your best years are ahead, I'm sure, Charlotte.
Thanks.
Charlotte, just growing up, brothers or sisters, or did you have any siblings growing up?
So I've got one brother. He's 2 years younger than me. He doesn't run. Everyone always asks that. They're like, "Oh, does he run?" I say, "No, he doesn't run. He runs for fun, but he doesn't run competitively." So
you've got the running genes, and
exactly.
And Charlotte, in terms of what you would rate as your single best performance so far out of all the achievements of many that you've had. You mentioned that was a highlight, the cross country, but what would be your single best performance?
I don't know. I think probably that World Cross Country was my best performance. I still think looking back, it was a really tough race, and managing to finish so high, that was yeah, I think that was my best performance.
Yeah, fantastic. And if listeners, I sound like I'm not jigging up and down now, it's because I am no longer. My wife has now taken our 7-month-old Charlotte. So when she took her, I'm still bouncing up and down because I'd had my heavy little baby in my arms for about 20 minutes there, Charlotte.
Oh,
so
good effort.
And then she went and I'm still bouncing, but I've stopped. So Charlotte, let's do a bit of a performance round here. So I'm going to throw some questions at you and you're ready for some rapid fire responses. It's an interval session.
Yeah, I think so.
Training session you most dislike?
Hills.
Hills. What? Give us a specific example.
Falls Creek 3-minute hills. Just terrible at hills. Like anyone in the Melbourne Track Club will tell you that I am the worst at hills, but I managed to get it done, and that's the most important thing. And at the end, you feel so much better. And Nick always tells me if I'm rubbish at it, I need to do more of it. So I'm rubbish at hills, so I need to do more of them.
What do you think? Where's the barrier for you with your hill running, Charlotte?
I seem to be all right at hills when it's in a race and I've had like a long run up to the hill, but I think it's just the speed and the power from standing that I'm really not very good at, because I'm obviously more a marathon runner. It takes me a bit of time to get warmed up, and the hills, you have to go so hard straight from the gun almost, so I'm not very good at that. So hills. Session you most love or like? I love the long run. Everyone usually hates the long run, but I really like just getting out for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Yeah, the long run, definitely. The long run. Tell listeners and I, Charlotte, what's your favourite pre-race meal? Pre-race meal. Before a race, I usually just have rice cakes with peanut butter and banana, and then honey on the top. That's usually and a really strong coffee. That's what I usually have before a race, because most of the races are obviously in the morning. So that, I guess, would be my pre-race meal. Oh, well, I feel very comforted, Charlotte. That's what I've boiled my pre-marathon meal down to, and oh, really? Now that means I should run a 2:30. So sweet. How far out before the start of a marathon would you digest that? Probably about 3 hours, so not too far before. I have it before training all the time. It's like 3 times a week, so I only usually have it before training 2 hours before. So before a race, I just leave the extra hour just to make doubly sure. But I think if you practice in training, then the timings, you should just keep it the same. Yeah, consistent. So Charlotte, bedtime, morning time, what do they look like in full training for you? I'm keeping you up because you're an hour delayed from the time I'm recording this here in Queensland. But what does it normally look like? Depends. If I'm marathon training, so 8 weeks before the marathon, I usually go to bed at like 9:30 because I'm so tired. But when I'm just doing like 10k half marathon training, I'm not as tired, so I usually go to bed about 10:30 and usually wake up about 7:30 or 8. So that's and so you're getting a good night's sleep. Who's the athlete, Charlotte, you most admire and why? Oh, that's a good one. There's a lot of athletes I admire. I really admire Kelly Holmes. She's helped me a lot in my career so far. So I was part of an initiative called On Camp with Kelly. It was like a mentoring program where Kelly mentored some athletes, and in that she really helped me get back from my injuries. She obviously had a load of injuries herself and won 2 double golds in 2008, I think it was. So learning from her experiences, she taught me how to aqua jog. She taught me about massage. So yeah, I'd say I definitely admire her and everything she's been through, and she's helped me so much. So yeah, Kelly Holmes. Fantastic. What about the toughest competitor you've ever raced? Who would that be and why? Toughest competitor, probably just all the Africans, because I just try to beat them all the time, and they stand out as being like the toughest. But it's probably just because there's so many of them that they seem like the toughest. And I wouldn't say there was one single person that is the toughest. I'd say just all the Africans. The Africans, right? It's the nation. Is there a mantra, Charlotte, that you will use when you're racing, like a mantra you'll recite to yourself? I have "believe" tattooed on my wrist. I got it there when I didn't make the Olympics in 2012, just because I wanted to remind myself that, if you keep believing and keep trying every day, that you can achieve what you want to achieve. So I wouldn't say I motto it to myself in the race, but it's there on my wrist for life now, so can't get away from it.
You're not getting away from that. Best recovery tip, Charlotte, what would that be?
Recovery tip. I really like having baths. In England it's freezing all the time, so it's probably a bit more likely that you're going to have a bath than in Australia. But I usually, after a session, jump in a hot bath with muscle salts and stuff. I don't really do cold baths. I do like hot baths, bubbles, and just like to relax, and helps me relax and recover. And sometimes before bed just helps me sleep as well. So I like to have a lot of baths.
A nice bath. Beautiful. Yeah. Tell me, Charlotte, if you could describe your racing style in one word, what would it be?
I'd say aggressive.
Aggressive. Nice. Charlotte, the zone, how would you define or describe the zone, getting in the zone to listeners? What does it feel like, and what words would you use to describe it?
Just when running feels easy. So training, obviously, you train so that racing is easy. So when you're in the zone, I'd say in a race, it's just when everything's clicked together and everything comes together in that race, and at that moment it feels pretty easy. Obviously the whole race is not going to be easy, because if it is, then you're not trying hard enough. But for the marathon, for example, up until like 35 Ks, I'd say I was in the zone, feels easy. And then the last bit of the race is really hard, but that's inevitable. So
so great. And when was the last time you were in the zone?
I'd say Frankfurt, ran around my 2:30. I was in the zone up until 35 Ks, and then I came out of the zone.
So that last 7 Ks, what's the word you'd use to describe that experience?
I'd say I was in like the hurt locker.
And in your first marathon, London, did you feel that same degree of pain?
I'd say I felt that same degree of pain. Last 5K though, I think it came on a bit later, but I think that's just because I was a bit more conservative in my first marathon. I didn't push it until I knew that I was definitely going to make it to the end. Whereas Frankfurt, because I'd already run one before, I kind of pushed myself a bit harder earlier on. But it definitely still happened.
Yeah, it's a feeling like not many others, is it? And it's all of a sudden 5Ks feels like it might as well be 50Ks.
Exactly.
Charlotte, let's just, if we can, just talk a little bit, unpack a bit of the marathon. So many of the listeners of this show are runners, Charlotte, and many have run marathons, looking to run faster marathons. Some are, aspiring to run their first. Just on the marathon itself, what pacing strategies have you personally used, and are there any that you'd recommend for, say, first-time listeners who are contemplating, tackling a marathon? So, firstly, yourself, what do you use? And secondly, what advice would you give to others regarding pacing of their marathon attempts?
So I think that training is obviously the best indicator of what pace you can run. I think there's no excuse, but there's not really an excuse for going off too hard. If you've done training at a certain pace, then why would you go at a different pace to what you did in training? So I think if you plan your training well enough for the pace that you want to run, then if you stick to that pace, then you should be fine. So that's what I did. I trained with a certain goal in mind, a certain time in mind, and stuck to that pace, and then executed it in the race.
Brilliant.
Really. I did have a pacemaker in Frankfurt. It was like a pace group that were going at 2:30 pace. So I stuck with them for the first half. But obviously, once they dropped, it was a big group of men. So once some of the men dropped off or some pushed on, you just kind of had to focus on what you were trying to do, because you can't really rely on other people all the time. So just ran at the pace that I felt comfortable at, that I knew I could sustain. Training had indicated I could run 2:30 minimum, so that's what I was going for.
And what were the key sets that gave you that confidence that 2:30 was achievable for you leading into that marathon, or was there a couple of long runs in particular, or what gave you the confidence that you could sustain that 2:30 pace, which bar 4 seconds it was 2:30 flat?
There was like the marathon sessions that I did were pretty hard, but 2 weeks before, I think it was, we did I did it with Cassie. We did a warm up and then 15 Ks at marathon pace and then a cool down. So that one was really key because we're running for 15K at marathon pace. So I could just tell when I was running that if that was easy, then obviously the marathon, once I'd tapered after that session for 2 weeks, that I'd be able to run that pace for 2.5 hours. So yeah, that when I did that one before London, I struggled to hit the pace for 2:30. I was just outside. I think I was average like 2:35, 2:36 pace. So even though in my head, like, I didn't want to admit that I wasn't going to run 2:30, I knew that I hadn't been able to hit the times in training. So looking back now, I knew that in Frankfurt I was in much better shape than from London, just from that one training session. Yeah,
and for listeners, per kilometre, you split your average kilometre pace for the 2:30. Charlotte is 3, what does that work out to be? 3, what per K?
I think it's 3:34, is it?
Yeah, I was going to say, so it'd be at 3:34 per K. It just gives listeners a perspective of, the speed that you're moving at. You mentioned taper, Charlotte, for your 2 marathon attempts. I think this is such a great conversation. You're running a 2:30 flat and you've done 2 marathons. So for your taper, what did that look like 2 weeks out? You obviously reducing volume, but any specifics, insights there for you?
So 2 weeks out, I did my last big session, which was that 15K threshold. And then that Sunday I did 90, so still a decent run. And then the second to last week I did I can't remember, I think Monday, normal runs. Tuesday I did a session, but it was a lot smaller. It wasn't a marathon session. It was more of a 10K half marathon session. And then the Saturday of that week, I did another 10K half marathon session. So that's a week out. The week before, exactly, I did an hour run. So that's not really very long. And then the week of the race, I did a session on the Tuesday that was on the track. And it was 5 times 800. So it was just really, I'd say slow, but it was like 2:36 for 800. So for me, that's pretty comfortable. And I'd have a minute rest and then, do 4 more of them. And then the rest of the week was just single runs, which when I was marathon training, I was doing double runs pretty much every day. So single runs for me is not much. And then, the day before the race, I think I did 30 minutes and then raced. So
so it felt like you're on holidays when you're doing single run days.
Exactly. As soon as you start doing single runs, your body's like, what's going on? So that's definitely when I know I'm doing a taper, when I start doing single runs.
And nutrition, Charlotte, obviously so important. What did you do nutrition wise across these 2 marathons? What did that look like for you?
So again, I think it's something that I'm still trying to get better at, because the 2 marathons I've done have been quite cold. So I need to drink a bit more, I think, when I'm running the marathons. Obviously, London was cold, Frankfurt was cold, but if I'm going to run the Commonwealth Games next year, then I need to really work on trying to drink more, because it's going to be pretty hot, I think, in Queensland. So I would take sips of electrolytes every 5K, and then every 10K I'd take a gel or some kind of, carbohydrate through the drink instead of the gel. So if I didn't have a gel, I'd have carbohydrates in my drink and I'd take a few sips, but I wasn't really taking that much water on in the race, which is probably something that I need to work on. Definitely. It's something I can improve on, because I think it will help me run faster. But for the first 2 marathons, obviously there's so much to think about when you're running, like actually running the pace and then feeling comfortable and then trying to take a little bit of drink and trying to take a gel. So at first I just wanted to run, but now I realise that I need to pay more attention to the little things like that, which obviously are the big things because they can really help me run faster.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to it, isn't there? I mean, have you ever looked at your salt rate, your salt excretion rate, Charlotte? Have you ever plumbed into that detail, or maybe not yet?
No, I haven't done anything like that before. Obviously, being out here training's taught me a lot about drinking more, because the first time I came to Australia, I didn't drink enough after training, and I got a bit of heat exhaustion or something. I was just a bit sick for days. But this year, I think I've got it a lot better because I'm taking magnesium supplement and electrolytes in all my drinks, and just making sure I'm drinking enough is really key throughout the day, because in England, I'm obviously not used to sweating this much, just not even running. So when I'm actually doing the sessions here, I'm sweating a lot more. So it's definitely teaching me a lot about, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I was amazed in the 2015 New York Marathon that, the organisers were speaking days out about salt load in, and as it happened, I have a high salt excretion rate and end up with hypothermia at the end of New York. And Cassie was there. Cassie Fein, and she was out of the tent much sooner than I was. I was sitting there for about 3 hours trying to warm up. So it's so important. So let's talk, Charlotte, about your bucket list. What's on your bucket list personally and in terms of running aspirations?
Running aspirations, definitely become an Olympian. I also want to do really stupid things, like I want to run the Disneyland marathon. I don't know why. I just always said to my boyfriend that I wanted to run the Disney World marathon, because you run through like all the parks and you finish in Magic Kingdom and you get like a little Mickey Mouse medal at the end. So I really want to do that. And then, it's so stupid, but I just want to do it.
Forget the world majors. Let's, get that little, The
Mickey Mouse Marathon, I know. Yeah, world majors, obviously. Commonwealth Games, I've already been to one, but obviously I never turned down another Commonwealth Games. I also want to run, when I retire, I want to run like an Ironman. I would be terrible at it because I'm really bad at swimming and cycling. I always fall off, but I still would like to run one. But yeah, the main thing running is just to become an Olympian, really. That's definitely my main running goal. And then general life goals, I'm not sure. I can't really think about it right now. There's a few places I'd like to travel to, like that I haven't been in the world. That would be quite cool. I want to buy a house. That's a big life goal.
Yep. So anywhere in particular you want to travel to?
I want to go to Hawaii, and I always wanted to go to Australia before I came here. So that's a big tick that I've done that so many times now. But I haven't actually travelled around Australia. So I've never been to Queensland before, and I've never been to like the really cool parts, I always say, like that you can't go to when you're trying to run, because everyone says when I say I'm coming to Australia, oh cool, do you get to go here, and I'm like, no, haven't been there. So I'd like to actually come to Australia, but not for training.
Well, what are the cool bits that you've missed out on so far? What are the cool bits?
So I want to go to Perth, and I want to go to like Phillip Island. My dad said it was really cool there. And yeah, like Hamilton Island, and like there's just so many places I'd like to go, like the Great Barrier Reef. I just like to go travelling around Australia, see a bit more of the country, because I've only been to Melbourne and Sydney before. Oh, and Tasmania. And I haven't even travelled around Tasmania. I've just been there, been to Hobart, raced to 10K, and then came back that same day. So I haven't even seen any of Tasmania. So it'd be cool to travel around.
Well, the Gold Coast 2018, you'll get to tick that
Gold
one off
Coast.
your list, eh?
Yeah, but again, I'll be focusing on the race, so I won't really get to see very much unless, obviously, I go out there before for training, which we'll do. But after the race, maybe I could plan a little holiday where I can actually enjoy seeing a bit of the country.
Well, I think it's a great idea. Charlotte, if you could boil down all the lessons you've learnt across your years of running endeavours, what would the one bit of advice be to help listeners perform at their physical best? Not just runners that are listening, but anyone listening to perform at their best. What would be the one bit of advice you would issue?
I'd say one thing that I definitely learned the hard way was listening to your body and realizing that everyone is an individual and not everyone should do the same as everyone else, especially in training. When I was younger, I think I got a bit carried away with trying to do what other people were doing, the same training, just because one girl was doing this one hectic training schedule. I was trying to keep up and do exactly the same, even though I'd wake up one day and something was sore. I'd just put it to the back of my mind and think, nah, I'll just carry on. This is what's set. I've got to do it. Whereas now, if I wake up and something's sore, I'll take a day off or do some cross training, or I don't know, just a lot more experienced at listening to my body and how it feels, and realizing that just because one athlete does one thing doesn't mean that everyone has to do the same training to be at the same level.
Yeah, and I guess that's a part of there's lots of benefits in squad and group life, in group training, but then there's the challenges, isn't there? Sometimes there's that, it must be challenging at times to be the one sitting out when everyone else is getting the work done.
Yeah, exactly. I think Nick's really good at that, though. So everyone in our group, all the girls, we all do different training, even though we train together maybe 3 or 4 times a week, but we all are on different schedules, and he's really good at setting everyone different training, but also we can train together for some parts of it. So it's cool, but yeah, that everyone can do that, really. So I still train with Eloise, but if you asked her how many Ks she was running a week compared to me, it would be a bit less, and she would be doing more intense sessions and I'd be doing longer stuff, but we still train together quite a lot. So yeah, it works pretty well.
Yeah, no, that's such wisdom in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Charlotte, if you could have dinner with 3 people, a bit of a fun one, living or past, who would be at that dinner table and why?
Justin Bieber.
Bieber. So
Yeah.
he's on your headphones before you run, your race.
Yeah, I love a bit of Justin Bieber. If you ask Eloise, she'll tell you we always listen to Bieber before sessions.
Favorite Bieber song?
Favorite Bieber song? Oh, I don't know. There's one called No Pressure, which I really like. So I listen to that one a lot. It's quite chilled.
Now you've got to help me out. You've got to sing me a few bars.
Oh no, I cannot sing. Honestly, I'm terrible at singing.
Come on, this is the start of it. Hum it.
No.
All right.
I can't even remember right now.
So Bieber's at the table. We've got 2 other seats to fill. Who's going to take them?
Oh, I don't know now after Bieber. I don't know.
Living or past?
The Queen, maybe.
The Queen. Wow, this is going to be a great conversation. And the 3rd seat?
I just think the Queen would be pretty cool. Get to meet her. The 3rd seat's probably my dog, Chloe.
All right. So we've got Bieber, the Queen, and your beautiful little dog. I'm presuming little. I don't know. Big dog.
Yeah, she's a little. Yeah. If you go on my Instagram, you can't miss her.
Okay.
So.
What sort of dog is she, Chloe?
She's a Chihuahua Pomeranian cross.
All right, I can't even say that.
Yeah, she's a Pomchi, I call her. But she's basically just small and fluffy and white with brown spots. But yeah, she's really cute. She doesn't run with me. Everyone always asks me that, but no, she can't. I drive her to the park and we do strides, but that's about all she can manage because she's so small. But yeah, so that would be a pretty interesting dinner table, I think.
Well, the Queen can bring her dogs and they can have a great time, and you can partner up with Bieber. Charlotte, to finish, what's the physical challenge you would like to issue listeners for the week? So this can be hard, it can be easy. What's it going to be?
I would say run 200 Ks, but that's not advisable. Probably to do a hill session like the one that I really hate, which is 6 times 3 minute hills with jog down recovery. I just find it really hard because 3 minute hills is a long time to be running uphill. So you have to run a hill, which actually is a hill for the whole 3 minutes. It can't be like flat and then just a hill for the last minute. It has to be a 3 minute uphill climb, and then you stop at the top, turn around and come back. But the jog down's not a slow jog. It's like literally get your breath, turn around, almost sprint back down, and then you go back up again. So yeah, that's my physical challenge.
And the hill, just to be clear, the hill rep is at effort, right, Charlotte? It's what, flat out?
Yeah, it's what it feels like flat out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you try and run up it as fast as you can, but try and keep the times consistent. So there's no point sprinting up the first one and then you can't go and run the same pace every one. So we always try to get faster each one. So we start at a decent pace, probably about 70%, and then just try and keep each one the same. And then if you have anything left, just try and sprint up the last one. But usually you're pretty tired by then, so it's just an effort to get up the hill.
It's a survival.
Yeah.
Charlotte, I feel compelled to ask you a fun question. What's the strangest thing you've ever seen while racing?
In Frankfurt, I was running in the group of men, and one of them peed in his bottle while he was running and then chucked it on the side of the road. It was just a pretty bizarre thing to see because we were in this group and just all like running along, and suddenly this guy drinks all of his bottle that he'd just got off the table, and then halfway down the road he starts peeing in the bottle, and then he chucked it on the side of the road. So I was just a bit confused really about what he was doing. So yeah, that's probably the weirdest thing.
So to be clear, this was a 2:30 bunch.
Yeah, 2:30 bunch. I don't know what he ended up running. I kind of just didn't want to look at him after that because I didn't want to. Yeah, but he was. It was quite bizarre because he drank his drink and then he carried the bottle for a little bit, and then must have been a couple of k's down the road he decided that he needed a pee, obviously, and he peed in his bottle while he was still running. And then
at 3:45, at 2:30 pace, so 3:34
at 2:30
k's.
pace, yeah, exactly.
Wow, so that's quite impressive. We might have to try and find that guy and get him on the podcast.
Yeah, I have no idea what he ended up running. I want to say that he actually ended up pushing on and running
sub 2:30. Yeah,
sub 2:30, because I think he was jogging at that point. It was quite early on in the race. I think it might have been only about 8k's in or something. And I think he ended up pushing on and going ahead. So he probably did end up, unless he dropped out, running faster than 2:30, I reckon.
Well, with so many jokes we could make and so little time, Charlotte. Charlotte, for listeners who want to keep up to speed with your journey, where can they find you online?
So on Instagram and Twitter, just Charlotte Purdue is my name. That's about it, really. I don't really use Facebook that much. So yeah, just Instagram and Twitter.
Brilliant. So listeners, we will link up Charlotte's handles in the show notes. So jump over and you'll have access to those, and also check out some of the photos we've mentioned through this interview, the shares that Charlotte shared on Instagram to see what we've been referring to. And Charlotte, on behalf of listeners, I want to say thank you. And in terms of your upcoming ambitions and goals and aspirations for the Commonwealth Games in Tokyo 2020, I want to wish you all the very, very best. And I think your story is remarkable. And
thanks very much.
Your best running days are ahead.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
So there you have it. Another episode of the Physical Performance Show, episode 53, in fact. If you enjoyed this week's episode, be sure to tag Charlotte and myself on social media over on Instagram or Twitter, and let us know what you took away from the show. It's always great to get post-show feedback and comments about what you've enjoyed and taken away as a learning. If you're going to take on any physical challenge for the week that Charlotte issued there, please tag us in, show us footage, or just let us know that you've completed it. That'd be awesome. And as I requested at the start of the program, if you've been enjoying the show, if you could take a moment this week to leave a review on iTunes, click ratings and review from your desktop, that would be awesome. As always, a massive thank you to the good folk who make this show possible. Audio engineer, superstar Daryl Misson. Daz, thanks for all your work, mate, across the last 12 months. We're into a new year now of the program, and thank you, mate, for having this sound good when it goes live. Susan Wilcombe, the show's VA. Thanks so much, Susan. You really are the mechanics of the program, so massive thanks for all that you do. If you'd like to get today's show notes, listeners, be sure to jump over to pogophysio.com.au, and you'll find them there under the blog in the podcast category. And lastly, if you're into your running and you'd like to, this year, 2017, enjoy injury-free and faster running, who wouldn't, then jump over and pick up a copy of my Amazon running and jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain Free. It's 330 pages, packed full of information built around a 5-step framework that's a proven process that I've used for the better part of a decade in the physio practice, working with runners and triathletes of all different abilities. It's available from pogophysio.com.au to distribute internationally, also over on Amazon, and now also available while you're on the run via iBooks or Audible. Coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, I catch up with a running legend, Mr. Steve Moneghetti. Monas, as everyone refers to him. Monas, for those that do need an introduction, rarely would he require one, is an Australian running and really international running legend. His bio is longer than my 2 arms, and I'll share that bio in full as the lead-in for next week's episode 54. But as a head starter, Mr. Moneghetti has been a representative at 4 Olympic Games, finishing his Olympic campaigning in Sydney, running the marathon to finish a very credible 10th place at 38 years of age. Monas is also a 4 times Commonwealth Games representative, and of course the Com Games marathon champion in 1994. Previous to that, he was the silver and bronze medalist at the Commonwealth Games in the marathon. Monas also has stood upon the podium at the World Athletics Championships for the marathon. And aside from his incredible accomplishments, also the half marathon world record holder across a couple of years. Monas gives so much back to the sport, including coming on this show so generously. And in the interview that I ran with Steve, he shares all of his classic wittisms. He's a funny, witty guy. He shares some great training insights, and he also shares openly around the highs and the lows of his journey, of his professional career. So, Steve Moneghetti coming up next week on the Physical Performance Show. Be sure to tune in and catch that episode. If you want to get the automatic updates, simply hit subscribe from within your app, and that'll pop the show in your device every week. So guys, until next week, keep pursuing your physical best. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.